anything that will give you its name like that or identify in a language, especially if it's not something that sounds right to you, if it sounds like it's like the...
Yeah, Gadara. That sounds like an enemy Godzilla would fight.
That's what I'm saying. If it's sounding like the black language of Mordor, basically. Welcome everybody to Unraveling the Unexplained. My name is Kat and I am a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. This is my brother John, longtime fan of the creepy and the paranormal.
Hello, folks.
He has picked out a video for me to react to. I don't know what it is, but we are about to find out together.
In the heart of Wisconsin lies a quiet rural community with a chilling secret. For decades, the residents of Elkhorn and the surrounding areas have shared eerie encounters with a mysterious creature that has become known as the Beast of Bray Road. Is it a mere legend, a modern myth, or a genuine menace lurking in the shadows?
Nice.
I did just want to take a brief moment and ask you guys to please give this video a like and subscribe with notifications. Traffic has been very slow lately. Every little bit of interaction helps me out tremendously. So thank you in advance, and I hope you enjoy the content.
Check out the channel.
Yes. We will link this channel in the description. Go like and subscribe for him. Like and subscribe for us. The real mystery in this universe is the YouTube algorithm. Nobody knows how this is doing, so yeah. I feel it, buddy.
Just get out there, watch more videos of the various people we check out.
Right. Take a minute to click the thumb up button. It really does help.
Elkhorn, Wisconsin, 1936. A small rural town, picturesque and charming, with a population of roughly 6,500 people. About an hour's drive from Madison and Milwaukee. It was an almost idyllic place. Not the...
This guy should do sleep hypnosis videos.
He's got a good voice, doesn't he?
It's just very hypnotic, and it's like...
Yeah.
Already kind of feel hypnotized.
sort of setting you'd hear about in a true crime podcast, for instance. But something would soon change the town of Elkhorn forever. Mark Shackleman, a night watchman at the Catholic convent known as St. Coletta. Around midnight, Shackleman was walking through the fields near the school when he saw something perched atop a nearby Native American burial mound. It appeared wolf-like, yet standing upright, and it also appeared to be clawing at the ground. Shackleman approached the creature to get a better look, but upon seeing it, when its eyes met his, it quickly fled. The following morning, Shackleman told his wife about the creature, describing that on one of its hands, its thumbs and fingers appeared shriveled. During the daylight hours, Shackleman returned to the mound and discovered raking marks in the dirt. After dusk passed and gave way to night, Shackleman returned to the mound once again and saw the creature. This time, however, it did not flee. It stood and faced Shackleman, who later estimated it to be nearly 7 feet tall. He said the creature was covered with dark or black hair, gave off a terrible odor, like long dead meat, and eyes that looked right into me, and it made a sound. It was like a 3-syllable growl, low and mean. It sounded like it said, Gadara. It was unlike anything that I had ever heard before. Mark Shackleman was in his mid-30s. He was a strong and capable man, a former heavyweight boxer, but the encounter made the hairs on his neck stand on end. He would later say, "Then I did the only thing I could do. I prayed to God to save me, and it turned and slowly walked away. For a long time I stood there. That bad smell hung in the air, and then I said another prayer of thankfulness. I never saw that thing again, or anything like it."
Okay. So there is something to be said for somebody who's been punched in the head one too many times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure that crossed the mind of more than a couple of people,
Yeah.
right? But also, if I'm taking it from the other tag, anything that will give you its name like that or identify in a language, especially if it's not something that sounds right to you, if it sounds like it's like the...
Yeah, Ghidorah, that sounds like an enemy Godzilla would fight.
That's what I'm saying. If it's sounding like the black language of Mordor, basically it's not something that you've ever heard somebody call or anything call itself. I have had interactions with entities that do that, and that's extra dimensional.
It's trying to say something, but the language ain't translating correctly to what we do.
Right, yeah, we can make some sort of translation out of it, but it's not going to make sense, and sometimes it is going to, that's part of my experience with things that come from what's generally called the Fey realms. Usually things that sound like that, they're coming from that kind of level of reality. But we'll watch the rest of the video, but that's what it sounds like. Something that identifies itself by name comes from something physical reality adjacent.
Right.
Some who heard Shackleman's story assumed the creature must have been a hellhound, a creature often found in ancient European and biblical literature. The growl of a hellhound was once described by a writer, Bob Trubshaw, as a halfway station between articulate speech and silence, filled with emotion and power, but utterly lacking in reason. Then there was what Shackleman had heard the creature say, Ghidorah, which shares an uncanny resemblance to Gadara, a site mentioned in the Bible as the location in ancient Judea where Jesus exorcised a demon-possessed man coming from the tombs. Just as the creature Shackleman had been clawing at a burial mound. Even among believers, though, this hellhound explanation for the Beast of Bray Road carries little credence. Rather, it highlights how the creature seems to defy explanation. When presented with something beyond understanding, it is often easiest to compare it to what you do know. In any case, Shackleman's story ends here. The creature he saw atop the burial mound vanished for a time. Or perhaps it simply lay in wait. As nearly 50 years after Shackleman's encounter, stories of the creature once again began to surface. Throughout the 80s and 90s, sightings of the Bray Road Beast rose in prominence. Though mostly seen around Elkhorn, locals also reported sightings of the beast as far as Walworth, Racine, and Jefferson County. The first of these recent encounters with the so-called Wisconsin werewolf occurred in the fall of 1989. Around 1:30 a.m., Lori Ann Drizzy was driving home along Bray Road from a lounge in Elkhorn called the Jury Room, where she worked as a manager. There, off to the side, she saw a massive creature. Its back was turned to her. But as she continued along the road, she glanced back and then saw it from the front. She would later say, it was kneeling, its elbows were up, and its claws were facing out. So I knew it had claws. I remember how long they were. She said it seemed to be holding something between those long claws. Roadkill, perhaps. But unlike many animals, which would turn and run when headlights were aimed at them, this creature instead turned and stared at her, terrified, and Drizzy drove home. The following morning, she ventured to the local library to dig through the catalogs and find something that might explain what she saw. What she found was an entry in the Golden Book of the Mysterious, published in 1976, featuring an illustration labeled Werewolf. It was night and it was quite late, but I know what I saw, and Drizzy would later say. You don't mistake something like that. To this day, I believe it was satanic. It was just my feeling. I don't believe in werewolves per se, but I believe something could, well, be conjured up. 2 years later, another local, named Doris Gibson, claimed to have seen the beast. It was Halloween night, 1991, and Gibson was driving along the road, through the fog, when she hit something and felt her front tire lift off the ground. After driving another 50 feet, she stopped the car and got out to assess the damage. to her car, and whatever she may have hit. There was nothing on the road behind her. As she made her way around the back of the car, it came running out of the woods. She would later say this: "Here comes this thing, and it's just running up at me. It was no dog. It was bigger than me. I've never seen a human run like that. And my uncle was a track star." Gibson quickly got back in her car and slammed her foot on the gas. And at the same moment, the creature caught up to her car and landed on the trunk, only sliding off because it had become slick from the condensation. Gibson said she felt she would have been dinner had the beast caught her, but she managed to escape. However, later that night, she saw it again. She picked up a friend from a party, and on the way home, that friend pointed out the window and screamed, "Look at that thing." Gibson wasted no time in speeding away, and when she got home, she noticed claw marks on the back of her blue Plymouth Sundance. She would later describe the creature as a freak of nature, one of God's mistakes. But this encounter, too, would be far from the last. In 2006, a man named Steve Kruger, who worked for the county, disposing of wildlife carcasses at nighttime when traffic was low in the area, on the sides of roads and highways, would experience something as well that would become etched deep into his brain forever. On the night of November 8th of 2006, a night that seemed like any other for Steve, he would come across a deer on the side of the road. And oddly, this deer wasn't marked for pickup that night. Kruger would get out of his truck and approach the deer to inspect it. The creature weighed about 180 pounds. Doing what he normally would do, he moved the animal into the back of his truck and then sat in the cab in order to fill out the necessary paperwork to be able to properly dispose of the animal. As he scribbles where and how he found the animal, Steve suddenly begins to feel the truck bed shudder. Thinking it must be the wind, at first, he dismisses it, until seconds later, it shakes yet again, but much more violently this time. Bewildered as to what could be causing the disturbance, Steve glances at his rearview mirror and sees something that shakes him to his core. In the back of his truck, manhandling a 180-pound deer carcass, was a massive creature. It had the head of a large wolf and a very furry, husky body. And bizarrely as well, it momentarily stops and arches back and stands on 2 feet, like a man. Judging by the size of his truck and his perception, Steve believed the creature to stand roughly 7 feet tall. Being a wildlife expert, he's encountered every known animal in the state of Wisconsin. But this creature has him stunned. He has no idea what it is. Fearing for his life now, with the seconds feeling like hours, Steve throws the vehicle into drive and guns it out of there. But while speeding down the road, he hears a massive rustling still from the back of his truck, and then a sharp, scraping sound. This creature, whatever it was, had managed to pull the animal out of the bed, as well as the metal ramp he used to load it in. Not wanting to stop as he sped away, but needing the ramp to do his daily job, Steve is in a complicated position, but he decides that he must go back. When he arrives back, he very reluctantly steps out of the truck to use his flashlight to search for the ramp, having not seen it from the eye view of the dash. However, upon surveying, he only finds a large pool of blood in the mud of the road, and no sign of the deer, the ramp, or the creature. Whatever this thing was strong enough and aggressive enough to pull a gigantic deer and ramp off the truck bed and into the nearby woods with ease. Clearly shaken by what he had just experienced, Steve decides to head straight to the police. he officially makes his report of a suspicious situation and creature the morning of November the 9th at approximately 3:48 a.m. Far from judgmental or humorous, the police have heard of this type of creature before. Hundreds of times, actually.
This is an interesting case. There is a lot of physical interaction, so something is physically there. It's not just something you're by or seeing on the side of the road.
Yeah. Even as early as the initial sighting at the Native American burial ground, there were like claw marks on the burial ground. And let's just say that I don't think anything good ever happens involving something messing with burial grounds.
There's certainly a lot of lore and stuff around it. You're also getting, a lot of these accounts are obviously very, and I'm not familiar with this area of Wisconsin or anything, but there's a lot of religious connotations from the people being applied to these situations, you know what I mean? Which is definitely going to shape and color the way that you're seeing or understanding something that's happening. So far, like, behavior, aside from the way it looks and the higher degree of intelligence that's there, behavior is very animal-like.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think being stuck in headlights or being stunned by headlights is not typical. A lot of animals stop and freeze in the headlights. I mean, it's why deers get hit in the road so often. Yeah, that's pretty typical of a lot of animals to be stunned and freeze in headlights. If it gets hit, I'm interested in the hit one where she ran it over and then it came out and attacked. Like, it makes sense to attack something that attacked you, but yeah. I'm curious why she didn't see something that big before she hit it.
Yeah, what's interesting is that this 7 foot tall, it's only 7 feet tall for some reason, the 7 foot tall wolf creature, if you hit something that big with that much mass with your car, it's probably going to leave some damage on your car. Like,
yeah, she did say there were claw marks and stuff, but it's like...
But, like, you'd see, like, a bent front bumper or something, but maybe, again, like, maybe it wasn't initially that big, or maybe it was laying down, or...
Yeah. 7 feet tall is pretty damn tall. Like... You feel like it doesn't sound very impressive until you're standing next to somebody that's actually that tall, and then you're like, oh my god. And especially how bulky it is, that's probably terrifying. But it's, coming back for its own kill, jumping in the back of a bed of a truck, like, no, you don't,
Yeah.
This creature behaving like an apex predator, right?
Yeah. Certainly not, like, intimidated by anything.
Right. Definitely having apex predator behavior. Like, it'll come back and fight for its kill. You're not taking my deer. And run off with it. And because, getting hit by a car would feel like an attack, an aggressive action by this car creature or whatever. Stealing its kill, again, comes off as an aggressive act. So it's interesting that it only seems to be interacting, engaging, or acting hostily in situations where...
It feels provoked.
Right, from its perspective, it's being provoked or attacked in some way. So I find that interesting as well.
Man, that guy's dedicated to his job, getting out and looking for his ramp. I'd be like, I'll come back in the morning for my ramp.
I kind of had the thought to myself that, and again, I'm not familiar with this area of Wisconsin or whatever, but I'm kind of surprised at the lack of rifles in these people's trucks. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, maybe that's just a stereotype on our
end. I did say I'm not familiar with this area of Wisconsin, but I mean, if I was here's the thing, is if I were a late night roadkill picker upper person,
you might have something on you just in case.
Yeah. I'm not even from an area like that. Like, we're out here next to Seattle, but I would still, if I was working late at night by myself out on the road, like, I think I would have, I don't know. That's just me. But anyway, we'll continue with it. I'm struck by how natural and animal-like the actions actually seem. So I'm not getting any kind of hellhound, evil demon summoning, any of that. It seems to be behaving naturally like an apex predator might.
Yeah.
Based on what they're saying.
With, as we've mentioned so far, the sightings dating back decades. They decide to file the report and send out 2 squad cars to check the scene out.
How'd you like to be that
But the policemen on the ground don't find the creature or the ramp either. Not on the road or the nearby surrounding woods. So what is the creature that has become known as the Bray Road Beast? Is it a werewolf? A shape-shifting creature, such as a skinwalker or a dogman? A hellhound, as previously mentioned? Or some kind of unfinished experiment that broke out of a lab someplace? Or is it demonic in nature? Its origin has ultimately yet to be determined. With sightings continuing to this day, whether it is a figment of imagination, a flesh and blood creature, or something more enigmatic, the legend persists. It remains a chilling tale that has left an indelible mark on the community of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and serves as a reminder that the unknown can be both captivating and terrifying. As the night descends, the Beast of Bray Road continues to haunt the collective imagination of this small town, leaving us to wonder if it will ever be revealed, or if it will remain forever concealed in the shadows and forests of rural Wisconsin. Thank you guys so much for watching this news video. If you enjoyed it, please give the video a like, share it with a friend, and
Oh, you're welcome, mister, and we will definitely, like we said, link this in the description. Go check it out. Give him some support. We definitely know the feeling. All right. This is cryptids are always an interesting situation.
Yeah,
right?
They kind of don't necessarily fit the, how should I say, the full-on otherworldly entities you're used to dealing with. Mm-hmm. Because cryptids often have a very physical presence to a degree, mm-hmm. depending on them. And they take all sorts of different shapes and styles. Mm-hmm. And werewolves or wolf-like creatures that walk around on two legs, that's a very common one. Like in the video I mentioned, there's, legends of the Dogman in various places, and talks of werewolves that goes back to medieval times.
Yeah, and there are a lot of legends too about shapeshifters or skinwalkers. It seems like it's an older phenomenon that has had, over time, a lot of different explanations or interpretations of it.
Yeah,
for sure. Even in a religious context, there's interpretations of hellhounds and stuff like this. It's kind of well experienced enough that there are all kinds of legends and interpretations of it out there. I think for me the hard part to reconcile about cryptids is if you have something that is literally just physically here, where is it?
Aside from the occasional sightings like this.
Right. Where is it? Where is it hiding out? What is it eating normally? Something that size has got to eat, and so you'd think you would find, livestock carcasses, or, you know what I mean, a lot more deer remains, things like that. It's difficult to reconcile that this is something that is actually just permanently on our plane, because you would think there would be a lot. Where's the droppings? You'd think there would be a lot more evidence of it there.
My personal take on that is, depending on the population of such a creature, if it really is just a purely physical creature, mm-hmm. If they have a relatively low population and they stick to these very rural areas, heavily forested, there's a lot of forest out there. Like, the North American continent is massive. There's mm-hmm. just so much terrain that if there aren't very many of them, they can just chill out there, kill the occasional deer. And unless there's a serious concentrated, search for them, all you're going to probably get are these occasional sightings that people will listen to but not take super seriously. And
I still think that there's a lot to be said for... I still think there's a lot standing against that logically. Just because, for a lot of reasons. For one thing, these sightings started a long time ago and continue to this day. How old is this thing? Does it repopulate? Is there two of them? Do they breed? It's, for a physical reality creature, it would need more than just itself, or maybe it's
there wouldn't just
be
one of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is it's, it's difficult to reconcile that based on just what we know about like how animals thrive and survive in
and especially
reality.
if this is a big apex predator kind of creature.
Right.
It's not like grizzly bears are an unknown thing, They don't stay hidden, even though they're big ass hairy predators themselves. So.
Right. But we and even in very remote areas. But we humans are curious cats. We know about grizzly bears. We film them. We document them. We know they have mates and offsprings and all their, And it's rarer to see a big one out there in the Klondike, but we know and that's a super remote area. That's not some road in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it becomes very hard to say to myself that this is just some big weird dog or some creature that just
some mysterious bipedal wolf we've just never been able to document.
Right, that feels illogical and like a stretch. I also think it's a stretch and it's illogical to say nothing's happening, these people are crazy.
Because people generally might make up stories every now and then, but you got to think about really what would be none of these people are getting famous off of it or writing books off of it. What's the motivation to be like, holy shit, this weird ass thing happened to me?
And I really feel like that is a misperception. I mean, you might have some people who think that's cool, but most regular, average, everyday people don't want to sound crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I spent 30 years of my life in the broom closet with all of these experiences because I didn't want to sound crazy. Like, most people, even if they know something is happening, they don't want to spread it around. They don't want people at the water cooler looking at them sideways.
Attention.
Yeah, most people actually don't want that kind of attention. And really, they only come forward and say things, again, like, absolutely terrified by these encounters and reporting it to authorities like somebody needs to do something. I don't know what it was, but somebody needs to do something about it because it attacked my car.
Somebody does that not because they're trying to be sensational, because they're genuinely scared and freaked out.
And concerned for the community or anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, this needs to be reported. So I think that's a very tangible, real experience that drives somebody to come forward about an incident like this. For their own safety and well-being and for the safety and well-being of the community. And listen, the police didn't sound shocked, right? Not the first time they've heard it. And you get that a lot in some of these reports too, especially with like Sasquatches in some areas and everything. Like, the local police know. You're not the first person who's reported it. Unfortunately, probably a local law enforcement office is not any better equipped to handle this situation,
Yeah.
And so you assume that they've been out and looking, they've looked for tracks, they've looked for leavings, they've looked for deer carcasses, you know what I mean? They've done their investigation, investigating.
Yeah.
And they're not finding anything. So where does that leave us with some of these cryptids? You know what I mean? Like,
certainly in a space where whatever they are, if they do exist, they're not quite something that could be considered normal. And again, this is pure conjecture. I've never come across a physical cryptid myself. I have come across in other realities, other dimension spaces, things that definitely don't look like creatures we have here, but I've never seen one in physical reality. So I can only speculate that somehow you're getting bleed through and crossover between realities in some places. You know what I mean? That there are some places, for whatever reason, whether it's ley lines or electromagnetically, or maybe some incident happened there where a portal was open, some kind of energetic portal was opened, where in certain cases, there's crossover between realities. There's a blending of the two, where you sometimes have encounters between humans and something else, species that come from different planes, interacting for whatever reason. And it seems like it's a similar entity appearing in a similar area, so that area is tied to that entity to some degree.
Right. That's what I mean, is something about the area, whether that's, the energies, electromagnetic stuff, whatever it is, or some incident like a burial ground or something like that created an energetic shift and opening, a blending of two realities where sometimes people get crossover. And it does sound to me like in this instance it's an apex predator, and it may have, a larger brain or better processing to be somewhat cognizant of what's going on. It may try to communicate, some things may come through. But behavior is very much like, no, you're not taking my deer, that's my kill. You hit me with this thing hurt me, I'm gonna hurt it. You know, it does behave like an apex predator from another plane might. So it's not like it's just creeping out on the road and waving at people, or you know what I mean. I'm not getting any demonic or ill intent or anything like that coming off of the situations that they described. So it doesn't seem like
it's not acting like certain more alien entities might, where it's just sort of mysteriously floating around or behaving in ways that are kind of hard to comprehend. Its behaviors, as you said, are fairly comprehensible.
Right, and it's not. There's not like an attempt to reach out, an attempt to communicate. It's not. That's not the type of thing that you're seeing here. So again, it feels like this is an area in physical reality, for whatever reason, that there's bleed through of reality. Sometimes you're getting interactions with things that don't actually originate here, like a blending of the two energies.
It's just sort of an animalistic entity from a different plane that when it ends up bleeding into here, it kind of takes shape of something close to what it is, something that is also predatory. And so that's hence the wolfish appearance.
Right, or it's possible that that's just what it looks like. There are like physical reality adjacent realms where, you know, things are largely physical just like we are. It's just not here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's possible that creatures like this do exist out there in other spheres of reality. I think the only other explanation that comes close to it is something like a shapeshifter, or a, you know, it's not a giant wolf-like creature all of the time. Sometimes it's a human, or like a werewolf, or sometimes it's a, you know, something else that only becomes this at certain energetic points or whatever. It's a transformation of some kind is really the only other thought process or thing that makes sense why you're not seeing, you know, a bunch of leadings or anything. I still feel like a rampage of something that's transforming though would leave deer carcasses or evidence or something. I don't know. It's strange. But I think that's the only other explanation that makes sense, is it's in some way something that transforms physically at certain times.
I mean, do you have any belief that there are people that can do that?
Shapeshifters?
Yeah.
I don't know about actually legitimately physically shapeshifting. I've never witnessed anything like that, but certainly there are those energetic shapeshifters who take on the experience or the actions of another kind of creature. Absolutely. I can't legitimately say that I've ever witnessed a physical transformation of, you know, one creature into another creature. Like, that's not something I can attest to. But I know certainly that there are spiritual practices that involve that, for sure.
All right.
So, I don't know, that's my hot take on it. I think it's likely a bleed through point. This is a very physical creature who's obviously interacting and stuff, so
yeah.
It seems like there's a reality crossover that happens in this area. So it seems like to me. Let us know what you think. Drop us a comment. Let us know if you think we're crazy or if you think we're on to something. Like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and we will see you guys next time on Unraveling the Unexplained.
Have a good day, folks.